Okay, so real fast before we get into it, this is the story. A report came out a few days ago that restaurant jobs in the US are still down. And there's all these missing jobs where, after quarantine kind of ended and restaurants opened up, you would hope that all those jobs come back and people get employed again by restaurants. But we're very much behind and there are thousands of jobs missing. Why is that? That's what this video is taking a look at. And as always, quick reminder, the men's rights movement supports men of all races all over the world. So we're not just for white men. This particular issue happens to be specific to white males, but the vast majority of men's issues affect men of all races all over the world. So let's get started. Okay, so I have to revisit a video I made a few months ago. It was about Joe Biden's restaurant relief bill to help businesses or restaurants in particular that closed because of COVID. Basically giving them assistance money so they can start back up and restart their business. And how, if you remember, white males were excluded. And for the most part, white males had a much more difficult time getting access to that assistance, to that program. And many white males were left out completely and just never got that assistance. And I made, again, this video explaining why that's obviously discrimination. It's simply discrimination. But to think about it, how dumb it is, because think about, how many people you're hurting. If a white male owns a business and they can't reopen, all the waiters and servers and busboys and all that and hostesses and bartenders, they're out of a job too. Now, look at what's on TV now. Look at what's happening right now in America. Surprise, surprise. And remember, even though it was white male restaurant owners who were excluded, all those busboys and servers and all those people, that could just as easily be a woman or a man of color as a white male employee. So employees are affected too if their restaurant doesn't reopen. They're out of that job. Okay, here we go.
The economy, and you could a heavy toll on the economy, and you can see it just by looking across where the hiring happened. For much of the spring and summer, we saw a lot of hiring happening in restaurants, in stores, in entertainment venues, and there was some hiring that happened there in September, but it was a really big drop-off. For instance, only about 2,000 people were hired in hotels after the travel slowed down a bit, and even restaurants only saw about 29,000 people hired last month. So that's definitely the number one story that's going on here. But
so there's really not much to say other than, well, how can you be surprised? What do you mean, why is this happening? What do you mean this is unexpected? Well, you excluded potentially 1/3 of the population of restaurant owners from getting assistance after a pandemic and after a shutdown, and now you're surprised that the restaurant industry is lagging. Well, why wouldn't it be lagging? And it's also worth noting that there are some people who they would only realize that this is an issue when they hear the point I made about how women and men of color who are employees can also be affected. Rather than just saying white men being discriminated against for how they're born, that should be enough to call something discriminatory and to call something wrong. But this is just frustrating. This happens to MRAs all the time when we see something happening and we can predict exactly what the problem's going to be, and everyone just kind of ignores us. And then sure enough, a few months later, that's exactly what happens. And that's exactly what's happening now. So, oh, but wait, that's not all. I forgot. It gets even stupider than that. Because not only do the employees of the restaurant lose their job and possibly their livelihood, but that white male owner, what if he has a wife and kids? What if he has a husband, kids? And now they've lost out a significant part of their livelihood. What if, and I hate to laugh and make fun of it, but this is why identity politics are just so stupid. What if it's a white man who owns the restaurant and he's married to a black woman, right? His wife is black and she has a different business, so she's not one of the owners of the restaurant, so the family doesn't qualify, and they have 2 mixed-race daughters. Now you have a black woman and 2 mixed-race daughters who are being left out of the assistance because the husband, who happens to be the owner of the business, happens to be a white man. I mean, when you really think about it, the stupidity of it. And then we wonder, why is the restaurant industry lagging in jobs? I mean, it's like,